Today we're going to be working on area of irregular figures, but let's just review some of the basics of geometry measurement first. Perimeter. Perimeter of a figure or polygon is basically the sum of all sides. In other words, you add up all the different sides. In this case, I would take 6 plus 4.5 plus 3 plus 4 plus another 3 to get your total. Do you know what that would be? Okay, and you get 20.5 or 20.5 centimeters. Perimeter, your units are not squared. I like to think of perimeter as the path around. Now the path around for a circle, which we've already talked about, is called the circumference. And to find that path, you take the diameter times pi. Now in this case, our diameter is not given to you. What is our diameter? Our diameter is 16. So I'd take 16 times 3.14. And what would you come up with? 50 and 24 hundredths, and it would be just plain old inches. Okay, then we're going to take a look at area. Area is the number of square units, or I like to think of it as the stuff inside. For a rectangle, you're going to take the base times the height, or sometimes it's called the length times the width. If we have a rectangle with a length of 12 inches and a height of 8, to find its area, you take 12 times 8, and you get 96 square inches. For a parallelogram basically is a quadrilateral, but it has two pairs of parallel sides. You calculate it just like you do a rectangle, because I could chop this little side off here and glue it over here, and what shape would you have? A rectangle. So you're still going to take a base, which the base is 12, times your height, or sometimes that's called altitude, to get 96. So a parallelogram is solved pretty much the same as a rectangle, because I could cut it apart and make it look like a rectangle. The area of a circle, we take the radius squared times pi. Now in this example, do we know what the radius is? It's 7. We have to calculate it. It's half of the diameter. So we'll take 7 squared, and in most cases we're going to use 3.14 for your pi. And what do you come up with? 153 and 86 hundredths? And my label would be centimeters squared. How to find the area of a triangle. I like to think of it as you take the base times the height and divide it by 2. Now a lot of your textbooks will say that it's a half times the base times the height, and that's fine as well. I just don't like to work necessarily with fractions, so I take the base times the height and divide it by 2. Now if you're in Scholar Bowl, there's a kind of a trick to this. If you have two measurements, base and height, if you'll just cut one of those in half to start with, it is a one-step problem. In other words, if I'm finding the area of a triangle that has a base of 8, a height of 4, cut the 8 in half, which is 4. You can do that mentally. 4 times 4 is 16. Or I can just say 4 times 8 divided by 2, which is 32 divided by 2, or 16 square centimeters. So either way works fine, but there are some shortcuts you can use. Now how come I didn't use the 5? Because it's not the height or the base. We just want to find the height and the base, and those two intersect to form what kind of an angle? A right angle, and we call that a perpendicular. If you were given this side and the base, and if you drew a right angle, what is this here? A right triangle. If you knew that it was halfway, if it was only halfway, then you can use your Pythagorean theorem to get the other side. Okay, let's find the area of this triangle. When you think you have it, give me your thumbs up. All right, what'd you get, Maddie? That's right. Half of 12 is 6 times 5 gives you 30 square inches. Or I can write down 5 times 12, which I'd like to see, divided by 2, and then you get your 30 inches squared. And your label will be square units. Okay, now we're going to look at how you find the area of a trapezoid. Now, this might be something new. A trapezoid is different than a parallelogram. So in order to find it, we have to find out which base we're going to use. Do I have to pick? Not really. You are going to trim this off, flip it over, and you have a rectangle. But how do I get that amount? It's the average of the bases. So the formula for finding the area of a trapezoid we say is base 1 plus base 2. How do I find an average? Divided by 2. Take all of that times your height. That's how you get the area of a trapezoid. So let's try that with this one. What will I do? What's the average of 14 and 20? Is it 17? So I have 17 now times 8, which equals 136 inches squared. Well, I know that 7 times 8 is 56. Carry your 5. 8 plus 5 is 13. Okay, how do I find the area of irregular shaped figures? Well, the easiest way is to go ahead and divide those figures into shapes that you are familiar with. So I can divide them into triangles or rectangles or possibly circles. Now, I may not use the whole triangle. I may use only half of a triangle. I may only use part of a circle. But still, that's the same idea as to how I find the area of irregular shapes. Okay, so let's try this one. What two shapes would I find the area for here? A rectangle and triangle. Okay, so let's find the area of the rectangle. An 8 by 10. And I need to see that written down. And then for the triangle, what is your height and your base of the triangle? 8 would be the base, 7 is the height. So 7 times 8 divided by 2. And what do you get? 56 divided by 2 is 28 square meters. Or again, you can think of it as 4 times 7 is 28. Now what do I do? Okay, combine those two and I get 108 square meters. That's the total area for my irregular shaped figures. All right, now let's take this shape. What two figures would I find the area for here? A rectangle and a half of a circle. Okay, so you're basically find the area of a circle and then divide it by 2. So let's do the rectangle. This one would be a 12 by 12, which is 144 square yards. Okay, now how to find the area of a circle? Radius squared times pi. So the radius is going to be 6. So I have 6 squared times 3.14. Thumbs up if you agree with that. Okay, what do I still need to do with this circle? Okay, divide it by 2 or divide it in half, and what do you come up with? Okay, you get 56 and 52 hundredths. Now what do I do? Right, combine them, and you get what? 200 and 54 hundredths. 52 hundredths. Yards squared, or square yards. Okay, why did we divide by 2? Because this isn't a full circle. It's just a half of a circle. Any other questions? Okay, today we've gone over how to find the area of irregular shaped figures.